In this video, we're going to learn how to find slope from a graph. So finding slope from a graph, step one, we are given a coordinate plane here, and we have a graphed line, and our goal is to find the slope of that line. The first step is to pick any 2 points, but we have to make sure that they're at the intersections in the grid. You can think of the grid as being like a grid of streets. And we want to make sure that the points that we pick are at the intersections of the streets. So let's pick those 2 points. The coordinates would be 2, 2 for this point and 6, 4 for this point. But we don't have to worry about those coordinates. I'm just pointing out where they are. We always want to start out with the point on the left when we're finding slope. This is something that may not be obvious, but I think you'll see why in a moment. So we are going to start out at that left point. Now, our goal in the next step is to start to move to the point to the right, but we're going to go up or down first. So we always want to make that first move either up or down. And if we go up, we're going to think of this as a positive slope. If we have to go down, we're going to think of this as a negative slope. In this first step, we are finding the amount of rise. So graphically, that's how it looks. To get to the point on the right, we have to go up, and we went up 2 units. We're counting the number of units that we went up. So plus 2, that's our rise. Then we go right. Always to the right on the second step. That's the reason we started out on the left. When we do that, we are going to find the amount of the run. In this case, the amount of run is 4. We have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the right to get to our second point. Now, that's the first step. We found the values we need to calculate the slope. Now we just need to calculate it. That's what we're going to do in step 2. Here is what we learned in step 1. Our rise was 2, positive 2, and our run was 4. So we're going to set up a fraction with the rise over the run. The slope is equal to the rise over the run. So our rise is 2 over our run of 4. Now, the next step is we either want to divide that if it's going to produce a whole number, or reduce the fraction if possible. We can't divide 2 by 4 and get a whole number, but we can reduce that fraction. And the answer to our question would be 1/2. This line that was graphed has a slope of positive 1/2. That's it. Now, I do want to focus a little bit of being aware of positive or negative slopes, because believe it or not, you can visually tell whether a slope is positive or negative without doing any math. And the trick is to focus on the right-hand side. Where is that line going on the right-hand side? So let me make some examples. Everything that I show is going to be a positive slope on this slide. That's a positive slope because the line is pointing up on the right-hand side. So is that. It doesn't matter where the line is positioned in the coordinate plane, as long as it is pointing up on the right-hand side, as in all of these examples, those are all positive slopes. So think about putting a big arrow on the right-hand side. If it's going up, that is a positive slope, even if it's going up just a little bit. Likewise, let's take a look at some negative slopes. These will all be pointing down on the right-hand side, like that, or that, or that. Notice that on the right-hand side of this line, these are all pointed down. Now, this is pointed way down. This one is just pointed a little down, but it doesn't matter. As long as it's pointed down, it will be a negative slope. So it's helpful to keep that in mind before you start doing the math. Let's do a couple of examples. What is the slope of this line? Now, in this case, we have to start out by identifying a couple of points that are at intersections. So I am going to pick this point right here. Notice how the line goes through the intersection of 4, 2. So that looks pretty good. And then I look for the next one. It looks like it goes right through that intersection. All right, now let me use some arrows here. We are going to start out at the point on the left, just as I did before. And it looks like we have to go up to get to the point on the right. I didn't draw that exactly straight, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3, we went up 3 units. Now, what do we have to do to get over to the point? We have to go over just 1 unit. So that is 1. And to the right will always be positive. So now we can just set up our rise over our run. Our rise is the amount up or down. That was positive 3. Our run was 1. Now in this example, we can divide and we just get the number 3. That is a slope of positive 3. Now look at what we talked about just a moment ago. It is pointing up on the right-hand side. We can ignore this arrow. We're only concerned with the arrow on the right. So it makes perfect sense that this is a positive slope. Take a look at one more example. Now in this problem, they don't show us a line. This is a kind of problem you may run into. What is the slope of the line going through points C and D? Now we could imagine the line going through C and D. Let me try to draw that. That might look like this. But we don't really need the line. We need to find the amount of the rise and the run. So we're going to do it the same way. And since they gave us these points, we can work with those. So we'll start out at the point on the left. Once again, we have to go up. I used a 2-headed arrow there. Let me undo that and go with a 1-headed arrow. All right, so we go from this point and we go up 1, 2, 3 units. So let's write that down. We went up 3, and now we have to go over to get to point D. 1, 2, 3 units as well. So we went up 3 and over 3. So our rise over our run. Our rise was 3. Our run, or the amount over, was 3. We divide that out and we get 1. Notice once again, our arrow on the right-hand side is going up. That tells us that this is a positive slope. We got a positive answer. Everything looks good. And our answer to this question would be D. All right, that's all I have for this subject. It's time for you to do some practice on your own.